was the chairman of Health Education. You know, I told him that running the project from the university just wouldn't work. And he said, John, the days on the plantation are over. We're big people now. So instead of the grant coming to the department, it went to the convention, and they gave me a technical assistance grant. And early on, we were running stuff, you know, and calling a lot of the shots, but they had the money. And then I remember the moderator, Dr. Burns, somebody from Lumberton, and this check came in for $900 and some thousand.
He knew what to do.
He thought it was a trick. He said, look, white folks don't give you $1 million unless they want something, and I ain't gonna sign it.
Oh my goodness.
And then we had some people that had been working with us for a year or so, and one of the preachers said, now brother, I appreciate your integrity. He said, but you know, I've been sitting around the table working on this stuff for over a year. And if you don't sign that damn check, I'm not gonna give you another penny. So anyway, don't say that, but.
That was recorded, you know.
All right.
Oh.
But you know, yeah, there was some interesting experiences, and Manley was incredibly supportive during that process. He was the moderator of the convention at the time, and we knew each other and had a trust relationship.
That's the Reverend J.R. Manley. Right?
J.R., yeah.
And
To the point where I could write the letter, you know, for him. He'd come to my office and we'd critique it. It went out over his signature. And that was critical to allowing things to happen. You know, if we're just trying to run it out of Chapel Hill, that would have been a no-no.
And that's the same Reverend Manley that Ted was talking about with First Baptist Manley Estates?
Yeah.
Yes, and he was a great man, but he did not initially believe that the church should be in the housing business. And Moses Carey, who was with his church, and Rudolph Jackson and some others, had to pull his coat before he was willing to let David Price send the money through First Baptist Manley Estates. When he had his 65th, he had his 65th anniversary at the Friday Center. Jack and I were there, and he was up at the podium doing Reverend Manley, and suddenly he stopped and he said, "The greatest thing I've ever done is to have Manley Estates built."
Oh.
And then he looked, he saw me sitting there with Jackie. He says, "And the Pine Nose Community Center helped." That was funny. Remember that, Jackie?
I do remember that.
Do you want to mention the names of other people who were very important or helpful in these activities? You mentioned Rudy Jackson and
Moses Carey.
Carey.
He was very, very helpful.
and David Price. Are there others?
David Price,
you
yeah.
mentioned in the Pine Knolls community activities, or any of the other things that you've talked about?
Well, going to Boston quickly, Representative Melvin King, he and John Hatch were my mentors, and Mel King wanted to run for the school board, which is an at-large race in Boston. Didn't stand a chance at that time, but later did become a member of the House of Representatives. Well, he helped in all the crazy things that I was doing. He helped a great deal.
Okay.
He also taught community organization, if you could believe this, at MIT.
Yeah, I knew that.
Remember that?
And how about Tufts? Was Tufts involved? Because you worked for, John, you worked for
Well,
Tufts. didn't you?
yeah, Tufts started the community health center model in Boston in a housing development. And over the years, that model has become the face of 28 health centers in Boston that serves the municipal employees. And of course, at the national level, there's something like 16 or 17 million people that get their health care from community health centers. It's a story that's not very well known, but just having modern medicine is not enough. And the first model of the community health center took form in China. I think the guy's name was John Grant. Was a physician, Yale trained, the son of missionaries who had gone to China. And at about the time Mao was coming alive and a lot of that, Grant had been challenged to try to bring modern medicine to China, and I think it was in Peking Union College that he had a position. And he realized that there aren't enough docs to make a difference. But if you can reorganize the concept of medicine and look at it as education, then maybe there's a chance. So that was the beginning of community health workers and training of village elders to do immunizations, children to do mosquito control campaigns, all that kind of stuff. And after a while and by, some people from South Africa working in Zulu and East Indian populations.
Sidney Clark.
Also,
Sidney Clark and Emily Clark.
Sidney and Emily. And they actually came to Mississippi when we were there, and we had conversation, and that made a lot. And then after I retired, one of the things that Fledra and I did was to go to Israel to visit
We saw
Sidney and Emily.
Well, Jeremy actually would be right. Jeremy Clark,
Yeah.
because Sidney passed away, didn't he? Or were they still alive? Was
Yeah.
Sidney Clark still
He
alive?
was sick, very sick,
Yeah.
in the house, and she was taking care of him. Yeah.
I want to mention two other things because they're relevant today. One of the programs that we got started that was funded by the Commerce Department was a massive community literacy program because black kids didn't have computers and access to them the way white kids did. So we were able to get from IBM and the Department of Defense computers, and we were able to hire folks to teach computer literacy over, anyway, it was in Durham, and we had kids from public housing come in, and we'd give them stipends to learn how to use the computers. So we started this program called Top Cat. That stands for Technology Opportunity Program Community Access to technology. That is still going to this day in the form of the North Carolina Central University Law School. They are handling cases out in the rural all across the state because they can do it through community technology. And I just think that that was and still is a wonderful program. And just to mention a couple of names, have to mention Howard Fitz as one of the persons who helped play a role with that one. Yeah.
Now, Howard was the chair of
He
health
was
education
yes, he was chair of the Department of Public Health Education,
at
but he
Central,
was
at
in
NC Central.
everything else.
But
He
you
was-
followed him as chair, didn't you?
I followed him as chair, but Howard was also one of the very quiet but effective voices in the Committee on the Affairs of Black People. So on the one hand, he was also very much, probably still is, a leader in his church. And he doesn't get enough credit for all the things that he had done.
Well, I know he was chair of the Board of Health in Durham for a
That
number
too.
of years.
That too.
Was he the first chair of the Public Health Education Department at NC Central?
No. No, he was not.
Who was
Who?
the first? Do you remember?
I do remember it. I cannot tell you right now, but I could call my secretary and get his name. Like Dr. I can't do
If it comes back, maybe you can mention it. But so it was the first, and then it was Howard as the second,
Then Howard
and then you were the third,
yeah, and then
Laverne was she?
Laverne Reed.
Laverne Reed was
Yeah,
third.
and now there's
Fourth.
another one there.
Saranda Robinson,
Rob, that's right.
Yeah.
and Saranda's a UNC graduate,
I know. Yeah,
and Laverne was a UNC graduate,
right.
and
I
you were
was-
a UNC
That's
graduate.
right. Yeah.
Was
you know-
Howard Fitz?
No, I don't think so.
Laverne went to
Well,
Randolph,
I think he went there, but I don't think that's where he graduated.
and I
Well,
thought
I don't know about his doctorate, but he interacted with Lucy Morgan.
Yes, he did.
And Lucy and Bernie Greenberg and
And some of our name are
Miller
Miller.
Statistics. Who's that?
Bernie Greenberg was biostatistics.
Okay.
Do you mean?
They actually had black students in their classes before things were legally separate. And I think it was the guy who brought me to Chapel Hill,
Yeah,
Shep.
Cecil Sheps?
Cecil.
Cecil and his wife taught
Mindel.
courses
Mindel
at Central.
Sheps.
And they, Lucy, I think it was, they said, look, if you're serious about, improving the health status of black people, you've got to train some black public health professionals. You can do health education and nursing, and I think that also accounted for the School of Nursing being in Central. So yeah, those handful of people made a difference.
And a woman named Miller, I can't think of her first name.
Miller.
Miller, her last name was Miller. But, and John, did you know that John taught at North Carolina Central too?
After he retired from Chapel Hill.
Yeah.
Yes.
I learned a lot. Oh, I did. I mean, what I was turned on by was the cultural affinity of the Central students in some situations. I remember on a Sunday, we'd gone to the Church of the Little Lord Jesus, which was very fundamentalist, and they kind of rocked. And when the spirit would get high, some of the sisters would come up and bow before you, and that's inviting you to dance. And was with this Central student, and this sister saw her and gave her the motion. And this girl got up and started doing it, which blew my mind. And on the way back, I said, "Hey, look, where did you learn that act?" She said, "My grandmother went to church like that. And when I was a little girl, I went to church with Grandma." And said, "Hey, you know," and you talking about being in, we were so well accepted you wouldn't believe it. And I guess that's probably the first outside educated types who could really participate in their service.
Interesting.
You know, only at Central would you find a student with that kind of background. And then Marcus Ure was another person.
Oh, really, Marcus?
Marcus Ure finished Central and then came to Chapel Hill and worked with me when I was trying to get male participation, which was always more difficult.